Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at the other side of the conduit, Earth sector. Earth sector, of course, is one side of the conduit, and from there, Clement sector was explored, and then the conduit collapsed, separating the two entities to this day. So I've gone over Clement sector a great deal. I've touched a little bit on Earth sector, but today we're going to look at the Earth sector sourcebook. The Earth sector, a Clement sector setting. And this, of course, is from Independence Games. I want to thank the folks at Independence Games for sending this my way. And I also want to point out that the original book, the Clement Sector 3rd Edition rulebook, which I featured earlier in the week, I had dubbed the BBB, the Big Beautiful Book, based on the LBBs of Traveler from the early 80s, the little black books. I've dubbed this one the OBBB, the other Big Beautiful Book, because it is. This is a really, really well put together offering. There's the front, there's the back. Just a very nice book. I think the Independence Games books are some of the best looking books on the market right now. But let's go ahead and see what we get inside. And what we get inside is a lot. Okay. Okay, there we go. First, the author is John Watts. John always writes an excellent book. So that was one of the main things I was excited about when I first started reading this. I was happy John is the writer. They have a very good team of writers for Independence Games, but I like John's stuff a lot. Ian Stead did a lot of the artwork in here. And I'm not going to mention every artist, no disrespect to anybody intended. But here we go. So here we get a little bit about Earth Sector itself, then the collapse of the conduit. This is a guy that actually saw the conduit collapse, and nobody really believes him, which is kind of a neat little sub-story. And about this book, Welcome to Earth Sector from John Watts, and this is from October of 2023. And a very lengthy table of contents. This is kind of symbolic of the Independence Games books, and I love it because now I can find stuff very, very quickly. If I want to find out, Australia, okay, they're on page 265. One thing I love about this book, beautiful artwork there. One thing I love about this book is we have the Nations of Earth sector. You have an incredibly balkanized sector. You have many nations of Earth who have spread out into space and have carved out their own little corner of the universe, and that's going to be theirs with their sub-colonies and on Earth. Maybe they're still fighting, or maybe they've recently fought and they're friends. This gives us the background on all of it. And the nice thing is we get a background on the conduit collapse itself as it affected the various nations, and it all depended on where their colonies were. A lot of these nations had, like the United States, had assets in Clement sector at the time of the conduit collapse. Those assets are lost, and it caused massive economic hardship. So that's the beautiful thing. Here we have India and India's little brief history, and then we have after the collapse of the conduit. India lost valuable resources such as ships and personnel. And it talks about, some places went into economic recession or depression. And each of the major powers on Earth are brought out. This is very, very nicely done. So if you want to play a space game that has a lot of flavor of Earth, this is definitely the one. So Japan right there. The United States. The Southern Alliance, which is fragmented from the United States and formed its own political entity. Russia, Republic of Texas is also its own entity, and so on. Australia, France, Mexico. So like I said, if you're looking for a space game that has a very Earth-heavy flavor to it, this is the game for you. That's one of the things I actually like about this. Much as I love other 2-6 space games, a lot of times Earth is just something in man's distant past, and it's not ever really addressed. So here we have a look at Earth sector, the actual sector itself, and where it's labeled. Very familiar layout. There we go. There's all the subsectors and the map itself of Earth sector. And then we get a look at all the subsectors. So this is subsector A, all very familiar layout. This is a Cepheus book. It's got its roots in Traveler, and that's where you have basically where the layout is. But very nicely brought out here. Anything you need to find, you can find. There you go. So I'm just going to kind of go through these pretty quick. A lot of this book is an overview of stuff, and there's not a ton of depth, but that's necessary. This book is finite. It's got a lot of pages, but it is finite. You can't call out the history of every world, because let's face it, how many books have been written about the history of our world, and yet not everything's been told in those books. So, but here we go. I love saying Hecate. Ashima. Let's see, this is Ilthea, Amaterasu. And then the maps themselves are broken out by which political group holds the worlds. So we've got a little indicator there. So if you're in a hurry, you can just kind of look at this page and go, okay, all right, the United States is up there. Okay, then I'll just use that. So this book is definitely the friend of a GM who's in a hurry. Lots and lots of information, lots of background. This reminded me of 2-Dice Space Games of many, many years past, and what made me stay with this type of system for so long. I love layouts like this. I realize it's 2D and space is 3D, and I've had people be critical, even at my own table, of that, to which I say, it's a game. Now we get to character generation on page 76. There's some differences with character generation in Earth Sector than there are in Clement Sector. You do need the Clement Sector book to kind of have the whole thing. So between the Clement Sector and Earth Sector, you do get the whole thing on creating your characters. But what's kind of neat is you pick the subsector that you come from, and then you can pick the planet that you're from. I thought this was a very nice touch, and it has it for each of the subsectors. Beautiful artwork there. I like that. That's a nice, simple piece, but it really says a lot. So continuing on, you get the look at the subsector and the planet you're from, so you can easily find that. And now we have table 3, background skills. These are background skills by the planet you're from, which is also pretty cool, because now I can go to the subsector, and if I am from Miasma, which is a great name, my background skills just for my planet are either Vac-Suit 1 or Survival Freefall 1. I get to pick which one I want. That's pretty sweet. So it's all based on how you were raised, where you were raised. That's beautiful. Nice arcology. I like that. And then Earth subsector. Let's see. If I was on Earth, any skill at level 1 and language any of 1. You get 2 skills there. You don't. It's not an or, it's an and. So that's pretty good too, because Earth being, kind of the melting pot where all this started, you have access to all the languages and all the skills. So continuing on through this section. And now we go to primary languages. We get a lot of information on primary languages, which I really like. Languages are something that gets a lot of hand wave in other 2-Dice-6 games. And I like that this is dialed in here, and it's dialed in by, again, where you're from. So if I am from, again, this subsector, and I'm from the planet Miasma, the primary languages there are English and Japanese. The first language listed is the primary language, and it can be primary, 51% to 49%, but the primary one is the first listed. So if I'm from Miasma, my English or Japanese are my mother tongues, and then I can go from there. You can learn languages as you go, become a polyglot if you wish. And we continue on through this, staying with the languages, and then we get to youth. What did you do when you were young? When you were a youth, what events happened to you in your young life? If you roll on rolling D66, which is a 6-sider representing 10s, and another 6-sider representing 1s. If I were to throw a 15, a 1, and then a 5, you have been exposed to a dangerous atmosphere. Lose 1 die 3 endurance. That happened to you as a kid. That's kind of neat. If I rolled a 2 and a 2, you are taught to ride a mount, gain animals riding. Also pretty cool. So the youth life table continues on. And then we get to your teenage years. What happened to you during your teenage years? Let's see. If I rolled a 4 and a 5, during your free time, you delve deeply into subjects more advanced than many other teenagers would attempt. Gain science 0. So there you go. I actually had a friend who used to game with us who kind of had done that. He was a bit of a nerd, and he spent a lot of time reading books on science and such. I think he was quite knowledgeable and was still in high school. And now your college years. What happened during your college years? Did you go to graduate school, medical school, undergraduate college? Were you admitted? And then the tables for that. What happened while you were there? Collegiate life events table. And now career paths. We get to look at different career paths that we can choose. And there are 14 careers. And then these are the mustering out benefits. So we take a look at the different careers. You can be a belter. I always love belters. Lots and lots of charts on what happened to you as a belter. You can be a celebrity, actor, musician, or star, just famous for being famous. And all the stuff that can happen to you in that career. You can be a colonist, a settler, politician, or a commercial. You're there for a commercial reason. You work for the big corporation that funded everything. Diplomatic service. Are you an ambassador, a generalist, or with diplomatic security? That's an interesting assignment. I kind of like the idea of having been a diplomatic security individual and then going back into the public life or private life. Kind of a Black Widow looking character there. And then we go as explorer, survey, explorer, or escort. Which are you? Are you just along as the escort, as the muscle to make sure everything goes fine? A free trader, a favorite. You can be one of four in this one: line crew, engineer, gunnery, or flight. There's your personal skills, and there are your line skills. And then the mishap table and the events tables. You can be a medic, as a private physician, ship's doctor, or an EMT, emergency medical technician. And the events and such for that. National Ground Forces. You can work for one of the nations of the area. And what do you do? Are you a combat rifleman? Do you work reconnaissance or heavy weapons? And all the stuff that comes out of that. National Navy, same deal. Crew or line, engineer, gunnery, or flight. Again, 4 choices. And lots of charts. And then the rank chart for being in the Navy, depending on which Navy you are in, how they promote you, what they call you when they promote you. You can be a pirate, yar. Why not? Pirates are a big part of 2.6 space games. And now we have the career. You can be a crew member, a boarder, a gunner, or an engineer. Maybe you were impressed into service, having been taken off your own ship. That can be part of your backstory, that you had to work for a pirate crew kind of against your will. You can be a prisoner, the ever popular prisoner. Whenever you roll a mishap and you end up in jail, this is the career you get. All called out right there. You can be in sports. You can be an athlete or a coach. A spy. Why not? Just call it a spy. You can be an agent, a field operative, or deep cover. You're placed in another nation and living undercover as a citizen there. And again, lots of tables for that. The vagabond. Yes, when you don't get into a service, you can end up as a vagabond. You can be destitute, where you're living off the streets, or transient, where you're just trying to move around from place to place. And we're still in the vagabond, which has all kinds of stuffs and events. And then we have uplifts of Earth sectors. Some of these uplifts are really clever, well thought of. Uplift is anything that is genetically what it was, but it's been uplifted to sentience. So an uplifted ape or an uplifted monkey, they are uplifted. They have intelligence based on what level of uplift they are. And in a lot of places, they have rights and are true members of the society, and with all the rights and privileges that entails. But then you have other things like ants and other insects. Because of the group mind, you can start elevating it, but you have to elevate through the group mind. You can elevate bobcats, regular cats, cheetahs. Collectors, a term used for a group of slime molds, which have been uplifted to the point where they can be given simple commands. So if you've got a really dirty starship and you really need it cleaned, you go ahead and take an uplifted slime mold and have it wander around and clean up everything for you. Again, it's a kind of a hive mind situation, a group mind. Crocodiles, dogs, beagle, boxer dog, not boxer person, German shepherd, Siberian husky, Komodo dragons. I like the idea of an uplifted Komodo dragon. That's a cool idea. Raccoons, rocket raccoon, anyone? And then we have uplift characters. What is your legal status on your world? It depends on the world itself. And the events of youth. If you were of the slave ilk, see, you can be a slave, you can be slave or servant, a free citizen but forced to live within a mixed community of uplifts, or you're a free citizen. So this is if you were raised as a slave, which is kind of Rocket Raccoon's backstory per the Marvel movies. It's different than the comic books. Mixed community as or youth, and then as a teenager, the slave. Segregated community as a teenager, mixed community as a teenager, and then uplift aging. How old are you? How old do you get to be? Some of the uplifts do not have real long lifespans. So if you want to be a bobcat, just be ready. At 17, you're pretty much off the chart as far as being old. Uplift slave career and the various mishaps that can be attached to that, which are plentiful. And then we have the first aliens that we've seen. There's evidence of previous alien civilizations all over Clement Sector and Earth Sector, but no existent aliens until this book. We get the Monochirons, which are intelligent race that look like Earth's otters. Utterly ridiculous, right? So we get all their stuff. If you want to be one of them, you can be as a player character. And the collegiate events tables for them. All the stuff you would need to go ahead and roll up a character or an NPC for one of these. And then the other are the Porangi. And the Porangi are, they are a group of intelligent creatures which appear to have evolved from a creature similar to a flying squirrel. So they can be gliders if the atmosphere is dense enough. So pretty interesting on both of these. These are the first aliens that I've seen in Clement Sector, Earth Sector from Independence Games. And I thought it was kind of neat. That's one thing I would like to see. Let's have some alien races. I love aliens. Technology in Earth Sector. So do you need a body part replaced? You've lost a hand? Fine. Here you go. Bio replacement. We can improve it for you too. We'll give that arm +1 strength. You can have cloning. What type of communications do you have? Holograms? Absolutely. Very important stuff for any 2-6 space game. Travel and operations. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing, says Helen Keller. And let us have faith, 1940 standard. So there you go. Travel and operations. What are you doing? Why are you traveling? Are you making money? Where do you travel? How do you do it? Ship operations. Lots and lots of good stuff in here for that. Vessel registration and inspections. That's something I really feel gets overlooked in a lot of 2-6 games. Interstellar relations. As I said earlier, you have a very balkanized chunk of the universe here. How's everybody getting along these days? Do you have a lot of conflict, or is everybody pretty much behaving themselves? And we get the various, what the relationship is. They're cordial, they're neutral, they're antagonistic, whatever it is, it's called out here. So for the busy game master, or honestly for the game master with a lot of time on his hands, this book is outstanding. You can do stuff in a hurry, or you can take your time and figure it all out. I really like that about this book. So continuing on through our relationships with our neighbors. There you go. Continuing still. Lot of charts in this book, but very useful charts. Go. I'm up to the Philippines. Kenya. Oh, it's not alphabetical. Okay. Still going. Almost through it. There we go. And then we get corporations and organizations. Foreman Genetic Solutions. I love this kind of stuff. A corp, megacorp, whatever it's designated. I love this kind of stuff. I love seeing their logos. Souvenir Clone Corporation. If I could speak French, I would try to say the French version of that. volunteer genetic services. These are very well thought out. Again, I've likened these to cryptic alliances from BattleTech, or not BattleTech, Gamma World, and this continues that tradition. I really, really like this. This kind of stuff breathes life into a campaign. Average Corporation, the Captain's Guild, and Adventures and Campaigns. So you have the conflict, the plot, common themes, rumors and truths about alien races. There we go. So there are alien races. So now we need to find more alien races. The conduit collapse. Nobody knows what happened with the conduit collapse, but there are a lot of conspiracy theories. And then some nice artwork, and then the legalese, and we're out. So that is a very brief thumbnail of Earth Sector, the counterpart to Clement Sector, and one of the core rulebooks for Independence Games Clement Sector 3rd Edition. So depending on which side of the sector you want, or the conduit you want to play on, you can use the books. You honestly, both of them, it's not going to hurt you, even if you're playing only in Clement Sector. Having Earth Sector, there's so much stuff here that you can just pour it over there in your own game. It's completely worth having. Interestingly, too, the other thing you can do with Independence Games is you don't have to play it after the conduit collapse. You can play it as the conduit is open and your players are traversing the conduit, and then as a surprise a couple of games in, you can have the conduit collapse and the immediate after effect of that. The societal upheaval that would have brought is just staggering. And in quiet moments, I like to think about exactly what would happen as far as inheritance, marriages. If you and your spouse were in different sectors when the conduit collapsed, after 5 years, are you still married? Do you consider yourself still married? You don't know what your partner's doing. What's the deal? What are we doing? What about a ship that you were part owner of that was over in Clement Sector with your spouse when the conduit collapsed? What do? You just out that money, or is there some recompense from somewhere that you can do? Does insurance cover it? These are all important questions to be answered post-conduit collapse. Most of the stuff in Independence Games takes place between a decade and 2 decades after the conduit collapse. Society's had a little bit of time to get its feet under it, but there are still ripples of it. The United States government is financially strapped because of it. So much of their assets were across in Clement Sector. So it's stuff like that. And again, it depends on what the kind of game you want to do. My players don't really know much about Clement Sector, Earth Sector. They certainly don't know about the conduit. So I may try to slip in some of the game before the conduit collapses, and then we can deal with the immediate aftermath of when the conduit collapses. So it's one of the things I'm toying with doing. But that's all I've got today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave me comments below, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Take a look at the Patreon, see if you can help me out there. Please tell your friends. I'm still growing the channel. And that's all I've got to say today on page 121. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you next time.